The moment Maya Hartley saw Xander Kensington walk into her family's auction house, she knew the evening was about to explode into chaos. His presence alone was an act of war, a deliberate provocation that sent whispers rippling through the crowd like wildfire. The Kensingtons and the Hartleys had been bitter rivals in the luxury auction world for 3 generations, fighting over clients' collections and prestige with a ferocity that had become legendary in their circles. And here he was, tall and devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, standing in the middle of her family's most important event of the season. Maya's fingers tightened around her champagne flute as her father appeared at her elbow, his face flushed with barely contained anger. "What the hell is he doing here?" Richard Hartley hissed, his voice low enough that nearby guests would not hear. "This is a closed event." "Someone must have leaked the guest list." "I will handle it," Maya said, though her heart was hammering against her ribs. At 26, she had spent her entire adult life preparing to take over Hartley auctions, learning every aspect of the business from appraisals to client relations. She had faced down difficult collectors, negotiated impossible deals, and worked 18-hour days to prove herself worthy of the family legacy. But facing Xander Kensington was something else entirely. She crossed the marble floor of the gallery, weaving between clusters of elegantly dressed guests, admiring the preview pieces for tomorrow's auction. Xander was studying a 17th-century painting with an expression of genuine interest, seemingly oblivious to the tension his presence had created. As she approached, he turned those piercing gray eyes on her, and she felt the impact like a physical blow. "Mr. Kensington," she said coolly, proud that her voice remained steady. "This is a private event for registered bidders only. I am afraid I am going to have to ask you to leave." His lips curved into a smile that was part amusement, part challenge. "Miss Hartley, I was hoping we would have a chance to meet properly. Your reputation precedes you." "As does yours," she replied. "Which is precisely why you are not welcome here. Our families may operate in the same industry, but we have nothing to discuss. Do not we?" He stepped closer, and she caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something clean and masculine. "I think we have quite a bit to discuss, actually, starting with the Ashford collection." Maya's blood ran cold. The Ashford collection was the crown jewel they had been pursuing for months, a private accumulation of impressionist paintings that would be the auction of the decade. If Xander knew about it, that meant the Kensingtons were making a play for it too. "I do not know what you are talking about," she said, but they both knew it was a lie. "Of course you do not." His eyes glinted with something that might have been admiration. "Look, I know our families have their history, but business is business. I came here tonight because I wanted to meet you face to face before this gets ugly. Professional courtesy." "How thoughtful," Maya said dryly. "Now that you have delivered your warning, you can leave." It was not a warning. He pulled a business card from his pocket and offered it to her. "It was an introduction. I have a feeling we are going to be seeing a lot of each other, Maya. I thought we might as well be civilized about it." The use of her first name should have irritated her. Instead, it sent an unwelcome shiver down her spine. She took the card without looking at it, her fingers brushing his for the briefest moment. "Goodbye, Mr. Kensington." She watched him leave, her heart still racing, and tried to ignore the fact that every eye in the room was on her. Her younger sister Natalie materialized beside her, excitement bright in her eyes. "Oh my God, that was Xander Kensington. He is even more gorgeous in person than in those business magazines. What did he say to you?" "Nothing important," Maya lied, shoving his card into her clutch. Just more of the same family drama. But she could not stop thinking about him as the evening wore on. His confidence, his directness, the way he had looked at her like she was someone worth knowing rather than just an obstacle to overcome. It was dangerous territory, and she knew it. The Kensingtons represented everything her family had fought against for decades. Getting involved with one of them, even thinking about one of them, was absolute betrayal. She threw herself into work over the following weeks, trying to forget that encounter. The Ashford collection negotiations were heating up, requiring delicate diplomacy and significant financial commitments. Maya spent her days in meetings with Mrs. Eleanor Ashford, an imperious 78-year-old widow who seemed to delight in playing the two auction houses against each other. "The Kensingtons have made a very generous offer," Mrs. Ashford mentioned during their third meeting, served tea in her Park Avenue penthouse. "Young Xander came himself to present it. Such a charming man. Do you know him personally, dear?" "Only by reputation," Maya said carefully, stirring honey into her Earl Grey. "But Hartley Auctions can offer something the Kensingtons cannot. We have been family-owned and operated for 75 years. We understand the personal significance of your collection and will honor your late husband's legacy with the care and attention it deserves." Mrs. Ashford's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Very diplomatic. You are your father's daughter, are not you? But between you and me, I think young Xander has more than a professional interest in this acquisition. He asked about you quite pointedly during our last meeting." Maya kept her expression neutral despite the flutter in her stomach. "I cannot imagine why, cannot you?" The older woman set down her teacup with a delicate clink. "You are both young, talented, and attractive. If circumstances were different, you would make quite a pair. It is rather Shakespearean, is not it? Star-crossed rivals." "Life is not a play, Mrs. Ashford," Maya said gently. "And my only interest in Xander Kensington is ensuring he does not walk away with your collection." But fate seemed determined to throw them together. She ran into him at a gallery opening in Chelsea the following week, both of them networking with potential clients. He found her standing in front of a massive abstract canvas, pretending to contemplate its meaning while actually checking work emails on her phone. "You are not actually looking at the art, are you?" His voice came from directly behind her, startling her enough that she nearly dropped her phone. Maya slipped the device into her purse and turned to face him. "I was multitasking. Some of us have actual work to do instead of just showing up at events to look decorative." Ouch. But he was smiling, apparently not offended. "Can I buy you a drink?" "As a peace offering for interrupting your very important email checking." "We are not friends, Mr. Kensington." "Xander," he corrected. "And I know we are not friends, but we are colleagues, whether you like it or not, two people operating in the same rarefied world. Is it so terrible that I would like to have one conversation where we are not at each other's throats?" Every instinct told her to walk away. Her father would be furious if he knew she was even considering this. But there was something in Xander's eyes, a sincerity beneath the polish and charm that made her curious despite herself. "One drink," she agreed. "And you are buying." They found a quiet corner at the gallery's makeshift bar, away from the crowds and the noise. Up close, away from the charged atmosphere of their rivalry, Maya found herself seeing him differently. He asked her about her work, really asked, listening when she talked about her passion for preservation and the thrill of connecting collectors with pieces that spoke to them. He told her about taking over more responsibilities at Kensington Auctions after his father's health scare the previous year, the pressure of living up to a legacy while trying to modernize their approach. "Sometimes I feel like I am fighting ghosts," he admitted, swirling the whiskey in his glass. "My grandfather's expectations, the family reputation, all these old feuds that have nothing to do with me. Do you ever feel that way? All the time," Maya confessed before she could stop herself. "Like I am just playing a role someone else wrote for me decades ago." Their eyes met and something shifted in the air between them. Recognition, understanding, attraction, all the things that should not be there but were impossible to deny. "We should not be doing this," Maya said quietly, talking. Xander's voice was equally soft. "Since when is conversation dangerous? You know what I mean, our families, the business, everything. This cannot happen." "Who says anything is happening?" But his gaze dropped to her lips and Maya's breath caught in her throat. "We are just two people having a drink, no harm in that." Except there was harm in it, and they both knew it. because Maya could not stop thinking about him after that night. His laugh, the way he had listened to her with genuine interest, the intelligence and humor behind that polished exterior. She found herself looking for him at industry events, disappointed when he was not there and too aware of him when he was. The situation with the Ashford collection came to a head 6 weeks after their first meeting. Mrs. Ashford summoned both Maya and Xander to her penthouse simultaneously, clearly enjoying the drama she was orchestrating. "I have decided," the older woman announced once they were all settled in her formal living room, "that I cannot choose between your two excellent houses based on business merits alone. You are both highly qualified, both offering excellent terms, so I have decided on a different approach." Meyer exchanged a wary glance with Xander, who looked equally uncertain about where this was going. "I want you to work together," Mrs. Ashford continued, clearly delighted by their shocked expressions. "A joint auction, co-hosted by Hartley and Kensington. If you can put aside your family rivalry long enough to collaborate on this, you can have the collection. If not, I will take it to Christie's and be done with both of you." "Mrs. Ashford," Maya began, but the older woman held up a hand. "My decision is final. You have until Monday to agree or I make the call to Christie's. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a bridge game to attend." They found themselves standing together on the sidewalk outside her building 15 minutes later, both too stunned to move. Maya finally broke the silence. "This is insane. Our families will never agree to this." "Probably not," Xander agreed. He turned to look at her, his expression serious. "But what if we did it anyway? This could be huge, Maya. The publicity alone would be incredible." Hartley and Kensington, bitter rivals, joining forces for the auction of the decade. "We could write our own terms, control the narrative. You are actually considering this, are not you?" He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Or are you going to tell me you are ready to just walk away from the Ashford collection without a fight?" He was right, and she hated it. This collection represented everything she had been working toward. It would establish her as a serious force in the industry, prove she was more than just Richard Hartley's daughter. But working with Xander meant spending time with him, being close to him, and she was not sure she trusted herself anymore. "We would need to set ground rules," she said slowly. "Clear boundaries, equal partnership, everything documented and agreed upon." "Absolutely." But the way he was looking at her suggested his thoughts were far from professional. "Should we seal it with a handshake or something more memorable, Xander?" she warned, but there was no heat in it. "Just a suggestion." His smile was pure trouble. "So, partner, when do we tell our families they are going to kill us?" The explosion Meyer expected came swiftly and with devastating force. Her father was apoplectic, her mother tearful, her uncles and aunts each calling to express their shock and disapproval. The Hartley name meant something, they reminded her. 3 generations of excellence, of integrity, of standing firm against the Kensingtons and their cutthroat tactics. How could she even consider this betrayal? "It is not a betrayal, it is business," Meyer argued during a particularly heated family dinner at her parents' estate in Connecticut. "The Ashford collection is worth millions. This is the opportunity of a lifetime." "There will be other opportunities," her father said coldly. "Opportunities that do not require you to crawl into bed with our enemies." "Dad," Maya felt her face flush. "This is a business arrangement, nothing more. You are being ridiculous." "Am I?" "Because from where I am sitting, it looks like Xander Kensington has played you perfectly. Charming young man sweeps in, flatters the naive daughter, and before you know it, he has access to all our client lists, our strategies, our confidential information." "I am not naive and I am not being played," Maya said, her voice shaking with anger and hurt. "I am trying to do what is best for this company. If you cannot see that, maybe you are not ready to hand it over to the next generation after all." She left before he could respond, driving back to her apartment in Manhattan with tears streaming down her face. She knew her father's anger came from a place of love and protection, but his lack of faith in her judgment cut deep. Her phone rang as she pulled into her parking garage. Xander's name flashed on the screen. "How bad was it?" he asked when she answered. "Pretty bad." "Yours?" "About what you would expect. My uncle called me a traitor. My father just looked disappointed, which somehow feels worse." He paused. "Are you okay?" The genuine concern in his voice nearly undid her. "I will be. This is just harder than I thought. Listen, I am at my place in Tribeca. Why do not you come over? We can order food, start working on the actual logistics of this thing, prove to ourselves that we are doing this for the right reasons." Every rational part of Maya's brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. Going to his apartment late at night, emotional and vulnerable, was asking for trouble. But she was tired of being rational, tired of living up to everyone else's expectations. "Text me the address," she said. "I will be there in 20 minutes. Xander's apartment was nothing like she expected. Instead of the sterile, modern space she had imagined, it was warm and lived in, with exposed brick walls, comfortable furniture, and an impressive collection of art that suggested actual personal taste rather than an interior designer's vision. He answered the door in jeans and a soft gray sweater, his hair slightly rumpled, looking more human and less like the polished businessman she was used to seeing. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. "I ordered Thai food. Hope that is okay." "Perfect." Maya set her purse down and accepted the glass of wine he offered. "Nice place." "Thanks. It is home." He led her to the living room where papers and photographs were already spread across the coffee table. "I have been going through the Ashford inventory list. There are some incredible pieces here. The Monet alone would be worth the trouble." They settled onto the couch, close but not quite touching, and dove into the work. It should have been awkward, but instead it felt natural. They debated auction strategies, discussed marketing approaches, and discovered they had similar instincts about how to handle the collection. The Thai food arrived and they ate straight from the containers, too focused on their planning to bother with plates. "We could do a 2-night event," Maya suggested, gesturing with her chopsticks. "Night 1 for the major pieces, night 2 for the smaller works and collectibles. Build anticipation, maximize media coverage." "I like it, and we could alternate auctioneers. You take the Monet, I take the Renoir, share the spotlight." Xander reached for another spring roll and their hands brushed. The contact sent electricity racing up Maya's arm. They both froze, the professional atmosphere suddenly charged with something else entirely. Xander set down his food slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Maya," he said softly, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out before you respond." Her heart began to race. "Okay. I did not pursue the Ashford collection just for business reasons. I mean, yes, it is an incredible opportunity and I absolutely want it. But I also knew it meant spending time with you. I have not been able to stop thinking about you since that first night at your gallery. The way you stood up to me, the passion you have for your work, your intelligence and strength. You are extraordinary, and I think you feel this too, this thing between us." Maya should have denied it, should have stood up and walked out, protected herself and her family's interests. But she was so tired of lying, especially to herself. "I do feel it," she whispered. "But Xander, we cannot. You know we cannot. Our families, the business, everything would be destroyed, or everything could change." He reached out and cupped her face gently in his hand. "Maybe we are not supposed to keep fighting these old battles. Maybe we are supposed to write a new story." When he kissed her, soft and questioning, Maya felt something inside her shift and settle into place. This was what she had been missing, what she had been afraid to want. She kissed him back, threading her fingers through his hair, and let herself fall into the feeling. They stayed up talking until 3 in the morning, curled together on his couch. Xander told her about growing up under the weight of family expectations, always feeling like he had to prove himself worthy of the Kensington name. Maya shared her fears about taking over the business, the pressure to be perfect, the loneliness of always putting work first. "I have not had a real relationship in years," she admitted, her head resting against his shoulder. "There is never time, never space for it, and most men are either intimidated by what I do or they want to use my connections. I am definitely intimidated by you, Xander said with a soft laugh. But in the best way, you make me want to be better, do better. I have never felt that with anyone before. This is crazy, Maya said, but she was smiling. What are we doing, being honest for once? He pressed a kiss to her temple. Whatever happens, I do not regret tonight. Even if you decide tomorrow that this was a mistake. But it did not feel like a mistake. It felt like the most right thing Maya had done in years. They kept their relationship secret while they worked on the Ashford auction. It was not ideal, stealing moments together between meetings and events, but there was something thrilling about it too. The way Xander would brush past her at gallery previews, his hand lingering on her waist just a moment too long. The late-night phone calls that started about business and ended with whispered conversations about everything and nothing. The stolen kisses in empty conference rooms and parking garages, both of them grinning like teenagers getting away with something forbidden. The planning brought them closer together professionally too. Maya discovered that Xander had brilliant instincts for marketing and client relations, while he respected her expertise in authentication and historical context. They challenged each other, pushed each other, and created something better together than either could have managed alone. But secrets have a way of coming to light. Maya's sister Natalie caught them having dinner together at a quiet restaurant in Brooklyn, far from their usual Manhattan haunts. She appeared at their table with her arms crossed and an expression of absolute shock. "What the hell is this?" Natalie demanded. "Please tell me you are not dating a Kensington." "Natalie, sit down," Maya said quietly, aware of other diners turning to stare. "Let me explain." "Oh, this should be good." But her sister slid into the booth beside her, eyes flashing with anger and hurt. "How long has this been going on?" "A few months," Xander said calmly. "And before you assume the worst, this is not some scheme or manipulation. I am in love with your sister." Completely, genuinely in love with her. Hearing him say it out loud made Maya's breath catch. They had not used that word yet, dancing around it even though the feeling had been obvious for weeks. "You love him." Natalie turned to Maya, her anger softening into concern. "Maya, are you serious about this? Because Dad is going to lose his mind. The whole family is going to lose their minds." "I know." Maya reached for Xander's hand across the table. "But yes, I am serious. More serious than I have ever been about anything except my work. I love him too." "Well, this is a disaster," Natalie said, but there was the hint of a smile playing at her lips. "But I guess if you are going to blow up your life for a guy, he might as well be rich and hot. Does he have a brother?" The tension broke, and Maya felt tears of relief pricking her eyes. Having even one family member on their side meant everything. "Actually, I do," Xander said with a grin. "Xavier, he is a surgeon in Boston, a doctor and a millionaire auctioneer. Your family has good genes." Natalie sobered. "Seriously though, you two need to figure out how you are going to handle this. Because keeping it secret is not sustainable, and when it comes out, it is going to be nuclear." She was right. They decided to come clean the week before the Ashford auction, figuring that if their families were going to disown them, at least they could salvage the professional collaboration they had worked so hard to build. Both families took it about as well as could be expected, which was to say, terribly. Maya's father refused to speak to her. Her mother cried. Her uncles held an emergency board meeting to discuss whether she should be removed from her position at Hartley auctions. The Kensingtons were equally dramatic, with Xander's mother apparently taking to her bed in shock and his uncle threatening to write him out of the will. "We knew this would be hard," Xander said, holding Maya while she cried in his apartment after a particularly brutal confrontation with her father. "But we are going to get through it, together." "What if we are wrong?" Maya whispered against his chest. "What if we are destroying everything for something that will not last? Hey." He tilted her face up to meet his eyes. "Look at me. I am not going anywhere. I have been with other women, dated seriously a few times, but I have never felt anything close to what I feel for you. You are it for me, Maya. End of story. Whatever we have to face, we face it together. The Ashford auction gave them something to focus on beyond the family drama. They threw themselves into the final preparations, perfecting every detail. The night of the first auction arrived with the weight of the world on their shoulders. This had to be perfect. It had to prove that their collaboration was worthwhile, that they were more than just their family's rivalry. Maya stood backstage at the auction house they had rented for the event, adjusting her dress for the 10th time. Xander found her there, impossibly handsome in his tuxedo. "Ready to make history?" he asked, offering his arm. "With you, always." The auction was a triumph. Maya handled the Monet with confident expertise, driving the bidding higher and higher until the final price shattered records. Xander was equally impressive with the Renoir, his charm and knowledge winning over even the most skeptical collectors. They moved together seamlessly, building on each other's energy, creating an electric atmosphere that had the audience buzzing with excitement. When the final hammer fell on night 2, they had exceeded even their most optimistic projections. The Ashford collection had brought in over $80 million, with press coverage from every major outlet and calls from collectors around the world eager to work with them. Mrs. Ashford herself approached them at the after-party, her eyes twinkling with satisfaction. "I knew you two would be perfect together, in every way, I suspect. You set us up," Maya realized, laughing despite herself. "This whole thing was a matchmaking scheme." "Not entirely," the older woman said with a shrug. "I genuinely wanted the best for my husband's collection. But I have always believed that love is worth fighting for, worth taking risks for. You two proved me right." The success of the auction shifted something in their family's attitudes. It was hard to argue with results like that, hard to maintain old grudges in the face of such obvious professional chemistry. Maya's father was the holdout, still refusing to fully accept the relationship. But even he began to thaw when other industry leaders started approaching Hartley auctions about collaborations inspired by what they had witnessed. 6 months after the Ashford auction, Xander proposed on the rooftop of Maya's apartment building at sunset. He got down on one knee with a vintage Art Deco ring that had belonged to his grandmother and told her that she was his masterpiece, the most valuable thing he had ever found. "I know we still have challenges ahead," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I know our families are still working things out, but I want to face everything with you. I want you as my wife, my partner, my best friend. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Maya said through happy tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." They married a year later in a ceremony that was equal parts love story and peace treaty. The Hartleys and Kensingtons sat on opposite sides of the aisle initially but mingled more as the evening wore on, old grudges beginning to fade in the face of obvious happiness. Maya's father walked her down the aisle with tears in his eyes, and when he placed her hand in Xander's, he whispered something that made both of them laugh. He said, "I better take care of you or he will outbid me on every major collection for the rest of my career," Xander told her later as they danced their first dance as husband and wife. "That sounds like Dad," Maya said, happiness radiating from every pore. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," Xander admitted with a grin. "But it is worth it. You are worth everything." They eventually merged their family businesses, creating Hartley Kensington Auctions, a powerhouse that dominated the industry. It was not easy, combining two companies with such different cultures and approaches, but Maya and Xander led by example. They showed that collaboration was stronger than competition, that respecting different perspectives made everyone better. 2 years into their marriage, Maya stood in the nursery of their brownstone in the West Village, one hand resting on her pregnant belly as she arranged art books on the shelf. Xander found her there, wrapping his arms around her from behind and pressing a kiss to her neck. "How are my two favorite people doing?" he murmured. "Good, tired but good." Maya leaned back against him, contentment washing over her. "I was just thinking about how different my life is from what I expected, how different it is from what I thought I wanted, better or worse." So much better. She turned in his arms to face him. I thought I had to choose between the family legacy and my own happiness. I thought loving you meant betraying everything I had been raised to believe in. But instead, it led me to something bigger. A new legacy, built on love instead of rivalry. Mrs. Hartley Kensington, are you getting sentimental on me? But Xander's eyes were suspiciously bright. Maybe, Meyer admitted. Blame it on the hormones, but I mean it, Xander. I never expected forbidden love would be worth everything, but it is. You are. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Outside the window, the city stretched out in all its chaotic glory, full of competition and challenges and endless possibility. But here in this room with this man, Maya had everything she needed. Their daughter arrived 3 months later, a perfect blend of both families with Maya's green eyes and Xander's dark hair. They named her Eleanor after Mrs. Ashford, the woman who had brought them together. Both sets of grandparents immediately fell in love, old grudges forgotten completely in the face of new life and new beginnings. 5 years later, standing in the gallery space they had built together, surrounded by incredible art and even more incredible friends and family, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought her here. The rivalry that had defined her childhood had transformed into something beautiful. The forbidden love that had seemed impossible had become the foundation of everything good in her life. Xander found her studying a new acquisition, slipping his hand into hers with the easy familiarity of someone who belonged there. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "Happy endings," Maya said, smiling up at him, "and new beginnings, and how sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never saw coming. Deep thoughts for a Thursday afternoon." "I am a complex woman," she squeezed his hand. "Come on. We have an auction to prepare for, a daughter to pick up from art class, and about 1,000,000 other things to do." "Sounds perfect," Xander said and meant it. They walked out together into the afternoon sunshine, partners in every sense of the word, living proof that love could indeed be worth everything. The forbidden romance that had once seemed destined to destroy them had instead built something stronger than either family could have created alone. And if that was not worth fighting for, Maya thought, then nothing was. Years later, when Eleanor was old enough to understand, they would tell her the whole story. How her parents had fallen in love despite the odds, how they had chosen each other over family expectations and old grudges, how they had proved that some things were more important than tradition. And she would grow up knowing that love was worth the risk, that courage meant standing up for what mattered, and that sometimes the most forbidden things turned out to be the most worthwhile. But for now, walking through the city with her husband's hand in hers and their daughter waiting for them at the end of the day, Maya simply felt grateful. Grateful for the chance encounter that had changed everything, for the courage to follow her heart, and for the love that had proved stronger than any rivalry. The Hartleys and Kensingtons had spent generations fighting each other. It had taken Maya and Xander falling in love to show them there was a better way, and it had been worth everything.